Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're doing something kind of wild. We're taking a story so unbelievably simple that most people completely stop thinking about it by the time they're, 10 years old? But we're going to decode it into a profound, highly actionable adult framework for resilience, wealth, and success. I am absolutely thrilled to share this with you because I promise you, once you see the hidden architecture in this childhood classic, you're never going to look at your daily habits the exact same way again.
Okay, let's dive right into this. When we think about this story, everyone remembers the big bad wolf, right? He's the villain, the action, the looming threat. But we almost entirely gloss over the houses. Almost nobody stops to actually understand the true psychological meaning behind what those houses represent. But as you'll see, the houses are literally everything.
The Three Little Pigs. Yeah, I know, it sounds like a totally juvenile fairy tale, but today we're shifting that paradigm entirely. We're going to strip away the nursery rhymes and look at the raw psychology and neuroscience of exactly why people choose the easy path and how you can build a life strategy so rock solid that absolutely no modern storm can tear it down. What's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly these physical building materials map directly to our deepest neurological and psychological traits. Just look at this breakdown. The first pig chooses straw, right? Because his ultimate desire is comfort, which links directly to a psychological trait called present bias. The second pig chooses sticks. He cares about appearances, leading to the illusion of progress. And the third pig? He goes with bricks. His desire is rooted in principles, which requires the absolute superpower of delayed gratification. So let's unpack exactly what this means for you. All right, let's start with the first pig and his house of straw. This represents immediate gratification. You know the feeling, I want results right now, or I'll just start tomorrow, or I'll choose comfort today. Well, psychologists call this present bias. It's basically the brain's natural tendency to value immediate rewards over future benefits. Look, if you find yourself choosing social media over studying or grabbing fast food instead of a healthy meal, I want to reassure you, your brain isn't broken. It just evolved for survival in a harsh, ancient world, not for modern, everyday discipline. But here's where that ancient wiring gets us into some serious trouble. Imagine two people. One is acting like the first pig, scrolling endlessly on their phone for 2 hours every single evening. The other is acting like the third pig, spending those exact same 2 hours learning a brand new skill. Now, if you look at them after day one, there is absolutely zero difference in their lives. After a week, still barely any difference. But let that compound over a year, their lives will no longer resemble each other in the lightest. The first pig isn't inherently lazy, he's just trapped by short-term thinking. And that brings us to the second pig. Now, he works harder, but not necessarily wiser. He builds with sticks. Honestly, a lot of us live in this house. We're busy. We're always busy, right? Hustling, answering emails, checking notifications. But the ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi perfectly described this trap as confusing movement with progress. It's kind of like sitting in a rocking chair. There's a whole lot of movement going on, but you travel absolutely zero distance. Here's the core issue with stick houses. They're strong enough for ordinary days, sure, but they are entirely weak during extraordinary challenges. When a sudden job loss happens, or a financial setback hits, or a long-term relationship ends, these foundations just completely collapse. And it's not because the person is weak. It's simply because their foundation of busy work and outward appearances was never actually designed to weather a real storm. So let's move on and see how this builds into the mindset of the third pig. The number 2 here represents a pivotal lesson from the incredibly famous Stanford marshmallow experiment. Researchers offered kids 1 marshmallow immediately, or 2 if they could just wait a short period of time. Years later, they tracked them down and found that the children who waited for 2 marshmallows, the ones who possessed delayed gratification, proved to have vastly better long-term success in academics, health, and just general life outcomes. The third pig wasn't necessarily smarter than his brothers, right? He just understood delayed gratification. He knew that a real foundation is built through slow, difficult, and totally unglamorous daily acts. It's 1 workout, 1 chapter read, 1 difficult conversation, 1 smart investment. Success rarely arrives in some flashy, dramatic, cinematic moment. It accumulates quietly, brick after brick after brick. Which brings us to the most critical question of this entire explainer. We've talked about the pigs and their houses. But who or what is the wolf? Well, here is the massive plot twist. The wolf isn't your enemy. The wolf is reality. And reality, it does not negotiate. When reality arrives at your front door, it doesn't care about your good intentions or your excuses. It simply asks one very blunt question. What have you prepared?
And this brilliantly illustrates the world we live in today. Just take a look at these modern wolves. Sure, they can be massive, life-altering events like a sudden illness or a global economic recession, but today's wolves, they often don't have sharp teeth at all. Sometimes they're smartphones, they're quick dopamine hits, constant comparison on social media, and endless distraction. You see, our ancestors fought literal lions, we fight dopamine. And strangely enough, this modern battle is often harder because these wolves wear friendly faces. They don't attack us outright, they invite us in. You open up YouTube to learn how to cook, and 30 minutes later, you're watching someone restore a 1963 tractor underwater. That right there is the modern wolf quietly blowing down your house.
To fight this, we really have to look at the hard science of resilience, and specifically neuroplasticity. This is the biological process where your brain literally rewires itself according to what you repeatedly do. Your daily habits don't just dictate your schedule, they literally become the physical, neurological architecture of your brain. Because of neuroplasticity, both positive and negative actions compound over time. If you repeat procrastination, your brain gets incredibly efficient at it. It literally becomes easier to procrastinate. But on the flip side, if you repeat discipline, that also becomes easier. You don't just wake up one random Tuesday and suddenly become a highly disciplined person. You have to build it over time, habit by habit. Now, this isn't just modern neuroscience. This is deeply rooted ancient wisdom. Stoic philosophy teaches us to actively prepare for hardship before it arrives, not out of some dark pessimism, but because preparation creates ultimate freedom. Marcus Aurelius literally reminded himself daily that challenges would come just so he'd be ready. Similarly, Buddhism teaches that the first pig was attached to comfort, the second to appearances, but the third was attached to principles. Comfort disappears, appearances always fade, but principles endure. When you apply these exact principles to your resources, you uncover a deeply hidden lesson about money. True wealth isn't just about having a super high income. Luxury without a foundation is just a house of straw. Real wealth comes from building systems that survive storms, a solid brick foundation of character, durable skills, strong relationships, and physical health that money alone simply cannot replace. So, the crucial point is, we need a plan. Let's move into Section 18, the 5 Bricks Framework, Building Your Unshakable Foundation. These are the 5 mandatory, actionable bricks required to weather life's inevitable storms. Brick 1. Build your body through consistent exercise, because physical energy creates opportunity. Brick 2. Build your mind. Read and learn continuously, because knowledge massively compounds over time. Brick 3. Build emotional resilience. Practice gratitude and emotional regulation so that when criticism arrives, you remain totally steady. Brick 4. Build valuable skills. Technology is going to constantly change, but if you build deep foundational skills, you become totally irreplaceable. And finally, Brick 5. Build meaningful relationships. Strong people rarely stand alone. Your support system is a literal, structural, load-bearing wall in your house. I want you to remember this with absolute conviction. Resilience isn't built during the storm. It is built long before the wind ever begins. Every single day, life hands you materials. Every shortcut you take is a handful of straw. Every single excuse you make is just another stick. But every disciplined, focused action you take, that is another solid brick. The wolf is coming, not because life is unfair, but because storms are simply a natural part of being alive. So don't fear the wolf, just build a house it cannot blow down. I want to leave you with this provocative challenge. Look closely at your daily habits. Don't wait for next year. Don't even wait for next Monday. What tiny, unglamorous, but absolutely essential brick will you lay today?